What if I told you that the money sitting in your savings account right now is actually costing you hundreds of thousands of dollars over your lifetime? Not losing it dramatically in some stock market crash, not getting stolen, just quietly, slowly, invisibly bleeding value every single year while you think you are being responsible. That is the uncomfortable truth most people never hear, and today we are going to fix that by walking through the exact numbers and the exact steps to turn your saving habit into a wealth building machine. Let me start with a story. Imagine two people, same age, same income, both disciplined enough to set aside $500 every single month. Person A puts it in a traditional savings account at the bank. Person B puts it into an index fund that tracks the stock market. Both are doing what most people would call the right thing. Fast forward 30 years, and these two people are living completely different financial lives. Person A has accumulated roughly $216,000. Not bad, right? Person B has accumulated somewhere around $1,100,000. Same $500. Same 30 years. Nearly $1 million difference. That gap is not luck, that is math. And once you understand that math, you cannot unsee it. So why does this happen? The answer is compound interest, and it works very differently depending on where your money lives. In a typical savings account today, you are earning somewhere around 4 to 5% in a high yield account, which is actually better than the near zero rates we saw a few years ago. But historically, the stock market, through a broad index fund, has returned an average of roughly 10% annually before inflation. That difference between 5% and 10% sounds small. It is not small. Because of compounding, you are not just earning on your original deposits, you are earning on your earnings. The interest makes interest. The returns generate more returns. And over decades, that exponential curve pulls so far ahead of the straight savings line that it becomes genuinely hard to believe when you see it on a chart. Now, here is where people get tripped up. They hear investing and they immediately picture a guy in a suit staring at a screen full of red and green numbers, making split-second decisions, gambling their life savings on individual stocks. That is not what we are talking about. What we are talking about is buying a small piece of the entire economy through something like a low-cost index fund, setting it up automatically, and letting decades of time do the heavy lifting. This is not complicated. This is actually simpler than most people think. But before you move a single dollar into investments, there is a sequence you need to follow. Skipping steps here is like building a house starting with the roof. Step 1 is to build your emergency fund first. This is not negotiable. You need 3 to 6 months of living expenses sitting in a liquid, accessible savings account before you even think about investing. Why? Because if you invest money you might need in 6 months, and the market drops 30% right when your car breaks down or you lose your job, you are forced to sell at the worst possible time and lock in a real loss. Your emergency fund is the foundation that lets your investments stay invested through the rough patches. Once that foundation is in place, step 2 is to attack any high-interest debt. If you are carrying credit card debt at 18 or 22% interest, paying that off is mathematically equivalent to earning an 18 to 22% guaranteed return. Nothing in the market comes close to that guaranteed. So knock it out before you start investing aggressively. Step 3 is where the wealth building actually begins. You start with tax-advantaged accounts. If your employer offers a retirement plan with any kind of matching contribution, that is free money, and you should capture every single dollar of that match before doing anything else. After that, look at opening a Roth IRA if you qualify based on your income. The reason these accounts matter so much is that your money grows either tax-free or tax-deferred, which dramatically increases your long-term results compared to investing in a regular taxable account. Let me give you the numbers on that too. If you invest $5,000 per year in a taxable account, earning 10%, and you are in a 22% tax bracket, after 30 years, you end up with roughly somewhere in the range of $700,000 after taxes. Put that same $5,000 per year into a Roth IRA where growth is completely tax-free, and after 30 years, you are looking at closer to $900,000. Same investment, same return. The account type alone adds nearly $200,000 to your outcome. Details matter enormously here. Step 4 is about automation. This is the psychology piece that most financial advice glosses over. The single biggest threat to your investing success is not market volatility. It is yourself. It is the month you decide to skip your contribution because something came up. It is checking your portfolio when the market is down and feeling the urge to pull everything out. The solution is to automate everything so it happens before you can second guess it. Set up automatic transfers on payday so the money moves to your investment account before it ever touches your checking account. Out of sight truly does mean out of mind, and in this context, that is a very good thing. Step 5 is staying consistent through the discomfort. Markets go up and markets go down, and the financial news will always find a reason to make you feel like now is the worst possible time to invest. Here's what history actually shows, though. Someone who invested $500 a month consistently through the 2008 financial crisis, through the 2020 pandemic crash, through every scary headline and every period of uncertainty would have outperformed almost every person who tried to time the market and wait for the perfect moment. Time in the market beats timing the market. This is not a motivational poster. It is a documented, repeatable mathematical reality. Now let me address the fear directly, because I know it is sitting there. What if the market crashes right after I start investing? What if I lose everything? Here's the honest answer. Yes, markets crash. They have crashed many times throughout history, but a broadly diversified index fund has never permanently gone to zero. Every single crash in history has eventually been followed by a recovery and new highs. The people who lost permanently were the ones who panicked and sold during the downturn. The ones who held or even kept buying through the dip ended up significantly ahead. The real risk is not investing and watching inflation eat your purchasing power quietly over decades while you feel safe with your savings account balance. Inflation running at even 3% annually cuts your purchasing power roughly in half over 24 years. That $500 sitting still in savings today buys about $250 worth of stuff in your future. Inflation is the slow, silent tax that nobody talks about enough. So here's the step-by-step path in plain language. First, build your emergency fund of 3 to 6 months of expenses in a high-yield savings account. Second, eliminate high-interest debt. Third, capture your employer match in your retirement account. Fourth, open and maximize a Roth IRA if you are eligible. Fifth, automate everything on payday. Sixth, invest in low-cost, broadly diversified index funds and do not touch it. Seventh, keep going for decades without watching it obsessively. The gap between savers and investors is not a gap in income or intelligence or luck. It is a gap in information and then action. You now have the information. The next 30 years start today with whatever decision you make after this video ends. The numbers do not lie, and time is the one thing you cannot buy back. Start now with whatever you have. Make it automatic and let the math do what the math does.